It happened at a backyard BBQ with close friends. We were joking about my boyfriend until he got up, said nothing, and left. Later that night, he told me it was over for good. I'm posting this on a burner account because I'm too ashamed to use my real one, and I don't want him to come across it. My name's Aaron, I'm 28, and my now ex-boyfriend, Miles, is 30. We'd been together nearly 4 years, living together for 2. I thought we were solid. I honestly never imagined I could lose him, especially not like this. The cracks had been there for a while. I just didn't want to see them. I'm outgoing, the kind of person who thrives in a crowd, while Miles was always more reserved. He preferred quiet evenings, reading or gaming, and had a tight circle of close-knit friends. I loved being around people, hosting dinners, planning trips. Miles never stopped me even when he didn't come along. He'd tell me to go, have fun. He supported my social life in ways I didn't appreciate at the time. The truth, I mistook Miles' kindness and easygoing nature for weakness. He rarely got angry. He didn't argue. He gave and gave and gave until I expected it. I started to believe he wouldn't ever leave, that no matter how I acted, he'd always be there. Miles would get up early to walk my dogs so I could sleep in, stay up late to help with my freelance deadlines, cancel his own plans to be there when I was upset. I stopped seeing those things as loving gestures. They became routine, expected. I work from home, and a year ago I convinced him it would be better if I focus more on my content creation. He agreed to cover more of the bills while I figured it out, but I slacked. I stopped pulling my weight, barely kept up with house chores, didn't cook, left things for him to handle after his long days at the office. He never scolded me. He just picked up the slack and tried to keep the peace. I began seeing him as spineless, thinking I needed someone more assertive, someone edgier. I started spending more time with friends, going out, drinking, and talking trash. I made jokes about how Miles would probably knit me a scarf if I asked nicely. My friends laughed and then they started joining in. They said I needed someone who could match my energy, not a guy who acts like a house husband. I laughed along. I didn't even realize how toxic it had gotten. Miles still tried. He left notes, bought little gifts, cooked new recipes, tried to plan weekend getaways, but I brushed it off. I wanted sparks, not safety. I flirted with other guys at parties, at bars, sometimes just for fun, sometimes because I was angry. Miles saw, I know he did, but he never said a word. He just tried harder. He thought if he loved me more, maybe it would fix things. That BBQ was the breaking point. We were in the backyard with a few couples, and someone made a joke about Miles being my personal assistant. I followed it up with something like, yeah, if I asked him to iron my socks, he'd probably say yes. Everyone laughed, even Miles, but he stood up, walked inside, and didn't come back. Later that night, after everyone had gone, he told me he was done. Not angry, not yelling, just done. He said he realized he'd lost himself trying to hold on to someone who didn't respect him anymore. I was stunned. I begged, I cried, I promised to change, but he looked at me with a kind of sadness I'd never seen in his eyes before. He said, I've been loving you so hard I forgot to love myself. I can't do this anymore. And then he packed a bag and left. I started spending more time with people who only fueled my worst instincts. They'd say things like, you could do so much better than Miles, or you need someone who's more aligned with your vibe. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was surrounding myself with enablers. Meanwhile, Miles retreated even further into himself. He poured more energy into work, volunteering for longer hours and taking on more projects. He stopped coming to social gatherings unless absolutely necessary, and even then, he'd stick to the sidelines, letting me take center stage. I was too caught up in the attention and validation to see what it was doing to him. Looking back now, I see just how unfair I was to Miles. He was loyal, thoughtful, and patient, and I took him for granted. I let my insecurities and selfishness slowly poison our relationship. There are so many times I disrespected him. Since I'm already venting, I'll share a few. It started a few months before the BBQ. That was around the time I began emotionally drifting from Miles. I reconnected with some friends from my old media internship who'd moved into the city. They were spontaneous and wild, exactly the energy I thought I was missing. One Friday, my friend Kim invited me out for dinner. It turned into a full night of rooftop bars, dancing, and selfies until Miles, as always, told me to have fun. He even handed me a little extra cash before I left. I didn't think twice about it. That night, probably one too many drinks in, I laughed with the group about how Miles handled everything at home, how he let me focus on my content, even though I hadn't uploaded in weeks, how he'd cook and clean while I brainstormed ideas that never turned into anything. Everyone laughed, and I soaked it in. It felt good to be the center of attention. The next morning, Miles had already made coffee and avocado toast for me before I even got out of bed. He asked how my night was, and I gave him some vague response, still feeling guilty. He smiled softly and said he was just glad I had fun. And just like that, the guilt twisted into annoyance. I brushed him off. Over the next several weeks, the pattern repeated. More nights out, more inside jokes with my friends at Miles' expense. And through it all, Miles kept supporting me. Even though the light in his eyes was clearly fading, our conversations got shorter. The warmth between us started to cool. But I kept pretending everything was fine, telling myself he'd never actually leave. One night, Kim and a few others came over for a movie night. Miles, always the host, made us tacos and fresh margaritas, then retreated to the bedroom. A couple of drinks in, the conversation shifted to relationships. Kim made a comment about how lucky I was, how Miles was practically a house husband without the ring. The others jumped in, and I leaned into it. I joked about how Miles would drop anything for me, how he probably had a spreadsheet of my snack preferences, how I could ask him to walk into traffic and he'd offer to hold my bag. Everyone laughed, and I laughed too, even though deep down, I felt like trash. I didn't realize until later that Miles had probably heard everything. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead, told me he loved me, and left for work. But the look in his eyes, it was like watching someone quietly accept the end of something they once fought for. The final straw came about a week before the barbecue. We'd been invited to a backyard cookout at a friend's place. It was warm and sunny, and people were relaxed and chatting. Miles, as usual, played the helpful host even though it wasn't his party, grilling burgers, offering drinks, making sure everyone was comfortable. At one point, the conversation turned to relationships, and I started bragging again. I joked about how Miles practically worshipped me, how he handled everything so I could exist in peace. People laughed, and of course, the jokes started flying. I looked over and realized Miles was standing not far off, drink in hand, quietly watching me as the group chuckled. For a split second, I thought I saw something in his expression, a final shift, like something inside him had snapped quietly. And that's when everything started to unravel. I felt a flicker of shame, but my desire to impress my friends outweighed it. I kept the jokes going, piling on at Miles' expense. It was like I couldn't stop myself. That night, when we got home, he didn't say a word. He went straight into the bedroom, closed the door, and left me sitting in silence on the couch. I sat there for a long time, angry, anxious, and confused. Deep down, I knew I'd crossed a line, but I told myself it would pass. It always did. Miles always forgave me. I had no idea that night marked the beginning of the end. The following weekend, we went to a barbecue hosted by one of my coworkers' roommates. It was nothing fancy, just a casual get-together, burgers, drinks, and music in a backyard with string lights and lawn chairs. Everyone from our friend group was there, including the people I'd been hanging out with more lately. Miles, as usual, stepped up to help with grilling and making sure everyone had what they needed. I was with Kim and a couple of others, sipping hard seltzers and swapping stories. Eventually, the conversation drifted toward relationships, who's dating who Who does what at home? And like always, someone brought up Miles. You seriously hit the jackpot. Someone said, laughing. He's like a golden retriever boyfriend. Totally loyal. Totally under your spell. Tipsy and buzzed from the attention, I leaned in and joked, oh, totally. He doesn't even say no anymore. It's like living with a personal assistant who cooks. The laughter picked up, and I went further than I should have. I mimicked his little routines, how he always checked the pantry before grocery runs, how he'd ask if I wanted lemon in my water like it was a love language. Everyone laughed, and I laughed too. But then the mood shifted. People started adding their own jabs, and suddenly it wasn't playful, it was mean. And then everything went quiet. I turned and saw him. Miles was standing a few feet away, holding a plate of grilled chicken. He was completely still, expressionless, pale. I didn't even know how long he'd been standing there. He walked over to our group slowly, looked at me and said, calmly but firmly, we need to talk. I froze. People were still pretending to chat around us, but the energy had shifted. I followed him around the side of the house where it was quieter. That's when he looked at me and said, I'm done. At first, I thought he meant he was done with the party, but he kept going. I'm tired of being disrespected, he said. By you, by your friends. I've spent years trying to make this work, thinking it would get better, but it's not. I'm not doing this anymore. I was stunned. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe he just needed to cool off, but Miles wasn't angry. He was resolute. You're not coming back to the apartment, he said. Your things will be on the porch. Don't try to follow me. And then he walked away. I stood there in complete shock. The party noise faded behind me. A few people turned to look, sensing something had gone down. I rushed after him, but by the time I made it back to our place, he was already inside, methodically packing my things. I begged him to talk. I cried. I tried everything, guilt, charm, apologies, but nothing got through. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He didn't even look at me. He just kept packing quietly but with complete certainty. After about an hour, he opened the door, set my bags on the porch, and told me to leave. When I refused, still in denial, he simply said, if you're not gone in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police. That's when I knew it was real. I walked away, shaking, carrying what I could. My so-called friends, none of them came to help. They just stood on the sidewalk, watching like they were waiting for a scene. I ended up walking to a nearby park, sat down on a bench, and called my dad. He picked up on the first ring. When he arrived, he didn't yell or scold me. He just opened the car door and said, let's go. I've been staying at my parents' house since then. I've tried texting Miles, calling him, nothing. It's like he's erased me overnight. I never thought he'd walk away like that. I thought he'd keep putting up with it, the way he always had. But he finally saw his worth and I didn't, not until it was too late. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I debated even posting this because, honestly, the last few responses crushed me. I know I messed up. I don't need another 100 people screaming it at me in the comments. I came here hoping for some real advice, maybe a bit of perspective, not to be dragged through the mud over and over. The hate has been overwhelming. I get it, I was wrong. That's kind of the whole reason I posted in the first place. And to answer a few things people keep repeating, no, I don't have a job right now. I said in my original post I've been working from home trying and failing to get my content creation thing off the ground. Yes, I know that's not enough anymore. I'm painfully aware. No, Miles and I weren't married, just lived together. And no, our relationship isn't officially over, at least not in my mind. I'm still hoping we can talk again and maybe find a way through this. Also, this is real. I know Reddit loves screaming fake the second something dramatic happens, but I really have better things to do than write fan fiction about destroying my own life. I miss him. Every second of the day, I miss him. And yeah, it hurts like hell knowing that I'm the reason he left, that I pushed away someone who did everything for me, quietly and without asking for much in return. If I could rewind even a month, I would, but I can't. I'm just stuck in the aftermath now. To everyone who actually offered genuine advice or empathy, thank you. I don't think you understand how much those few kind words helped during the worst days. For those who came just to tear me down, I hope you never have to sit where I'm sitting now. And yeah, I'm trying. I'm applying to jobs. I'm trying to get back on my feet mentally and financially. But it's hard to focus when everything reminds me of him. Even cooking eggs reminds me of the way he used to put hot sauce on everything. Another quick update. I don't even know why I keep coming back here. Reddit can be so damn toxic, but I don't really have anyone else to talk to right now, so here I am. First off, I need to give a shout out to my parents. I don't deserve the way they've stepped up for me. I've been crashing at their place since everything fell apart, and without them, I'd probably be sleeping in my car. They don't say much, but they've made space for me to figure things out. Secondly, Tina and the rest. Blocked every single one. Not a single check-in, not a single message after the barbecue blow up. Guess it takes losing everything to find out who really gives a damn. Turns out, none of them did. And yeah, Miles and I finally talked. It wasn't a fight. He didn't raise his voice or blame me. He just told me, with the same quiet calm he always had, that he's moving on. He's looking for a new place, and he's done waiting for me to change. He didn't say it to be cruel, it felt more like someone who'd made peace with a hard truth. I told him I understood. I told him I'd give him what he wanted. But part of me still hopes that one day he'll realize we were worth fixing. And when that day comes, maybe I'll be strong enough to say no. I don't know. I'm just trying to get through the day without crying. Everything happened so fast. 1 month I thought I had it all: friends, a relationship, freedom. Now I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom, unemployed, single, and trying to pick up the pieces. Life comes at you fast when you're too proud to see what's slipping through your fingers. I don't want pity. I don't want judgment. I just want to figure out who I am without him and maybe, eventually, prove I'm worth more than who I was. So yeah, that's where I am now. Taking it one day at a time, trying to find a job, trying to save enough to get my own place, and trying to not let the bitterness eat me alive. If anyone's still reading this, thanks. I don't expect a warm reception, but I'm here. I'm trying. That's all I've got right now. Final update for real this time. Hey Reddit. I stopped posting for a while because honestly, this place can be brutal, but I figured I owed one last update for those who genuinely tried to help. Miles and I are officially done. Not that we were married or anything, but we lived together for almost 2 years, and splitting up our lives still felt like a divorce. He kept the apartment, it was always his to begin with, and I moved back in with my parents. Not ideal, but it's what I could manage. I finally got a job. It's nothing glamorous: customer service, low pay, weird hours. My dad pulled some strings to get me in. I don't love it, but I show up, I clock in, and I'm trying to make it work, one step at a time. As for Miles, he's completely cut me off. I've reached out a few times, texts, even a letter once, but I never got a response. He meant it when he said he was done. And the hardest part, he genuinely looks happier now. You'd think that would make me angry, but it doesn't, it just hurts. I'm not proud of how things went down. I let my ego and some toxic friendship dynamics cloud my judgment. I made fun of someone who gave me everything: financial support, emotional patience, actual love. And I did it in front of people who clearly never had my back to begin with. Speaking of those so-called friends, I found out recently that a few of them, the same ones who joined in mocking Miles at that BBQ, are now trying to get with him. No joke. An old acquaintance I bumped into told me they've been sliding into his DMs, showing up at events he's at, all that. The irony is disgusting. Thankfully, Miles doesn't seem to be giving any of them the time of day. That acquaintance, by the way, super kind. She never really hung out with us back then, probably because Tina always made snide comments about her, but she didn't hold my past against me. She even offered to grab coffee or help out if I needed someone to talk to. just reminded me there are still good people out there. Right now, I'm still at that same crappy job and still living with my parents. But I've been saving every penny and looking for better work. I'm hoping to move out in the next few months. I started therapy too. That's probably the best decision I've made in years. It's helping me unpack everything, not just what happened with Miles, but why I acted the way I did in the first place. There's a long road ahead, but at least I'm on it now. To everyone who gave me thoughtful advice or support, thank you. I was in a really dark place, and your words helped more than you know. To those who just came to kick me while I was down, I hope you eventually learn that piling onto someone else's pain doesn't make yours go away. We all screw up. I'm trying to own mine. Anyway, this really is the last update. I'm moving on, taking it day by day, and focusing on becoming someone I can actually be proud of. Take care, Reddit.